Good evening. I call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock, but before we get started, I would like us to acknowledge a moment of silence for the accident that happened earlier this last week. Thank you. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Kelly.
Here.
LaSalle.
Here.
Mikulski.
Here.
Sabatini.
Here.
Leaks May.
Here. Moving on to the approval of the agenda, please.
Mayor, I'd like to approve the agenda with one item being removed, and that is 7I, approval of fog inspection and compliance program by Eganix for $58,280. I'd like to table that for future consideration with no date applied to it.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And now we're moving on to presentations. We have a few of them tonight. The first one being item 4A, presentation from the Ferndale Area District Library. Welcome, Jeff.
Good evening, City Council. An honor to be here. I'm Jeff Milo. I am the head of marketing over at the library. Joining me here is Drew McCauley, the director of the library. So good to see you all. We're your next door neighbors. There is a library millage coming up on August 4th on the primary, and we're aware that some people may not be aware of that yet, and they are going to be receiving some absentee ballots soon. So we just wanted to have a quick check-in and give you a bit of an update about what's going on at the library, especially lately, because this is one of our most exciting times of the year. Summer is one of our most busiest times of the year. This is a time of year when we like to challenge the entire community who is willing to sign up for it to do a reading challenge. It is super fun. There's lots of prizes involved. Okay. Oh, do I need to, oh, not yet. But I'd be happy to, toggle unless I push the wrong button. Scroll, eh? Yeah, we can do that. Well, here we are. We were here back in April 27th of this year, and we have also checked in with the Ferndale seniors, and that was wonderful, telling them about the millage. But we did have our summer programming kickoff. We had a huge turnout at our kickoff party on June 6th. We had more than 370 people sign up for summer reading, and since then, through online signups, through this reading challenge, we've had 655 people sign up for this. That is up from last year. We've also been doing some outreach. We had a great turnout when we were at the Ferndale Pride event. We had nearly 700 people come up to our little tent there. We're grateful to Ferndale Pride for giving us a chance to hang out there. We were providing bookmarks, buttons, stickers, of course reading recommendations, because that tent was staffed by librarians, mobile library card signups, which was excellent, and then telling them about all of the events that we have coming up in the summer ahead, as well as information about our upcoming millages, which Drew is going to tell you about later in this little bit of sliding. Hello. Let's look at May. Just May alone. In just May alone, we had 15,300 items checked out from this library and 475 new library cards issued. 10,000 people walked through our doors. When it comes to the people coming to this library cards, if you are new to the area or haven't signed up yet, they are free to all residents, including children who are 5 years or older, and there's convenient online library card sign up. That also includes apps that will let you download audiobooks. It's pretty wonderful. You will get, when you come to the building, free access to Wi-Fi, computers, and technology resources 7 days a week. If you didn't know yet, your library is open 7 days a week. Also, convenient community services such as printing, copying, scanning, and faxing. Yes, people still fax, and we are here to help you do that. And if you need a private study room, we're here for that as well. We've been establishing some new partnerships. In a couple weeks, we'll be having a graphic novel book club at Balam Coffee across the street from us. We're doing story times in the parks. We did one at Geary Park, and we'll have more coming up, one at Martin Road Park and one at Wanda Park in July and August. We'll also be at the Schiffer Park 9 on 9 series on August 2nd. If you want to come hang out with us, you can learn about our vinyl collection. We'll also be tabling at a Palmer Park Farmers Market coming up on July 8th. So we're always busy here at the library. In case you did miss us at our April 27th council meeting, these are just a few of the stats from 2025 to demonstrate the amount of usage that this library gets. In an annual year, we'll get more than 120,000 people coming through this door. We'll be issuing more than 6,000 library cards. In 2025 alone, we added 9,000 new items, 207,000 checkouts. And our programs, which you have access at the library to free programs and events weekly, we had more than 14,000 of our residents attending those programs. We also covered some history at the last meeting, and here's Drew to tell you more about that.
Quick recap of our history. In 2004, the Ferndale Area District Library spun off from City Hall. We became independently governed, and that means independently funded with our own millage. We were no longer a city department. So 2014 is when we formally became a district library. 2016 is when our last millage passed, and it passed by a 2-to-1 margin. We were able to use that funding to expand service in a lot of ways, including being open 7 days a week, expanding our collections, and this meant adding several digital resources, audiobooks and ebooks, and digital periodicals were added. We expanded our programming, and last year we did 272 programs, both on-site and outreach. We also eliminated late fees. In 2017, we purchased our building from the city, and that bond is going to be paid off by the end of 2027. So this will be a city asset that is independently owned by FADL. And because of that, the library is responsible for all maintenance on the building and all contracts pertaining to maintaining the building.
It's important to note as we look ahead to the actual text that you're going to be seeing on the millage if you are receiving absentee ballots, or if you're getting ready to look ahead to the August 4th ballot. If you're coming to one of the polling locations, you'll see 2 questions on the ballot for the library. One is a renewal of our operational millage that is going to be renewing the current 2.81 mils that we have and adding an additional 0.5 mil that is going to be for the purpose of funding all library operations and programs. That includes staffing, hours, everything that you do inside that building as a visitor, everything that you interact with, whether it is a human staffer or a program. The second question is for just 0.5 mil, that is a capital asset millage. As Drew mentioned, we do own our own building. We are up to keeping track of our own maintenance, and there are crucial infrastructure, including geothermal HVAC systems, roof, siding, flooring, Ethernet network upgrades that need to be done because those infrastructure are now getting to be almost 17 years old. They can basically drive a car. So if you are interested in learning more, we do have handouts available at the library if you want to visit. That'll give you just the frequently asked questions, the rundown, and you can go to our website, of course, at fadl.org. You can also find, of course, more information at the usual sources like mi.gov/vote, and also recently posted to the Oakland County Times, and then also information about learning how to vote at the website of our great city. But a few words here from our director, Drew.
So before we conclude, I'd just like to share a few final thoughts. This evening, you've heard some details about the proposals that are going to appear on the August 4th ballot, and you've also heard some information and updates about our recent usage stats and our recent programming. Those numbers are important, and they're important because what they really represent are people. They represent children getting their first library cards and discovering a love of reading, students, especially high schoolers and college students, finding a place to study, job seekers accessing new opportunities, and neighbors connecting with resources, technology, and often one another at our ongoing free programs. And these statistics tell a story. One of the things that I most value about serving as the library director is the opportunity to see those stories unfold every day. The library belongs to this community, and it reflects our unique values: learning, accessibility, culture, curiosity, and staying connected. I'm grateful to work alongside a talented staff who care deeply about the people we serve and who work very hard every day to make the library a welcoming and useful resource for everyone. We're here tonight to answer questions, but of course, anybody can stop by with any questions or concerns. They can connect with us via our website, via email, or the phone. Thank you for providing us time tonight to speak and to share more about your library and for being part of and supporting a community that values staying informed. And of course, a special thanks to everyone who stops in daily or weekly to visit us and to utilize our library. Thank you.
I'll also say a special thanks to City Council for the time tonight. Thank you so much. Absentee ballots are probably going out this week. Election Day is August 4th. There is more information on our website if you want to learn, and you can actually see the full text of the questions that are coming from the library. And don't forget, it is never too late to sign up for summer reading. It's super fun. Look at how much fun these staffers are having. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. We're now going on to presentation item 4B, update to the city phone tree. And I believe the communications manager will speak on that.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm here tonight to present to you an update that myself and Macro Connect made to our city phone tree. And so by city phone tree, I mean that when residents call our general line, which is 248-546-2525, they're met with an automated menu that directs them to a department based on a number that they should push. So our previous menu over the years has kind of found to have been confusing and a bit difficult to navigate. It resulted in a lot of call transfers and voicemails, which was ultimately pretty frustrating. And it also, there was no assigned operator or customer service person, and the comms department was buried pretty far into the menu, which kind of made us hard to access. So after reviewing some call data, myself and Sean and Taryn from Macro Connect made a complete update to our phone tree on Friday, June 12th. We were able to do it in about 5 hours, and it had no issues whatsoever. So it was a very seamless update. So essentially, we updated the phone tree structure by linking extensions to the appropriate locations based on a new outline that I came up with. So I went over a proposed order with city staff. They approved the restructuring prior to the change, and they're familiar with how it is currently. I want to make it clear that all phone numbers and extensions are still exactly the same. That has not changed, just that initial phone tree menu has changed. We did change the voice as well, so that was added via a text-to-speech audio software, and we did save those settings so that the voice could be reused at any time. This was preferable just in case, we recorded it with a staff member and there was a departure. We didn't want to have to redo the entire thing or have multiple voices. So anytime we need to make a change, we can go in there and fix it. So a couple previous barriers and solutions that we identified in the process. The first one was that the previous call tree did not accurately reflect the most dialed departments. So for example, police was our most dialed department, but on the previous tree, they were all the way down to number 6. Which meant that if someone were to call police, which was fairly likely given the data, they would have had to wait all the way through all the other menu items. So this way, the current order of the tree reflects those departments that were called the most. So that way, hopefully, it'll help speed up the process for people when they're trying to contact a certain department. So the new order on the right, those are all the departments we organized based on priority. I do want to note that we added an extension for parking. They previously did not have their own, as well as the DDA. They have their own as well now. And then a communications extension as well, which I will get into in a couple slides here. The next barrier we noticed was that the phrasing of the prompts themselves was pretty inconsistent. Some of them were topic-based and some were only department names. And we felt that was a little bit confusing, just given that the public might not know which department, coincides with which topic they're looking for. So we have now reordered all the phrasing to be based on topic. So for example, Previously, it said for the city clerk's office, press 5. Now it says for elections, Freedom of Information Act requests, boards and commissions, licenses, and marriage ceremonies, please press 8. So hopefully it helps kind of clear it up a little bit for people who might be looking for a specific thing. Now they don't have to figure out which department, helps with that. And then I would say the most notable change, at least that myself and Hannah, our specialist, have noticed, is that there was no dedicated operator or customer service person or department, and we were buried very far into the menu. You had to wait all the way until city manager's office and then wait even longer. So we now have created a joint extension that is 111, and it rings both myself and Hannah at the exact same time, which we have both been able to pick up very quickly and easily. And then we also have a tagging system that we use. All the voicemails that we get to that extension go to our emails, and then we have a system that we use to manage our information email address that basically just says, did we forward it? When did we forward it? Did we address it ourselves? Was it spam or blank? So that has definitely made a huge difference. We can definitely attest to the fact that there has been a significant increase in calls to that line. I counted earlier today, and between June 4th and June 11th, which was prior to us setting it up, we had 4 calls go to us. From June 12th through June 19th, we had 86 since we started the new extension. So it's definitely working out. And other departments have reported that they have experienced less calls that are not meant for them. They are all related to what they should be getting calls for. So that has worked out pretty well. And then just some goals and outcomes. We really want to streamline call efficiency, improve accuracy, offer a more timely response, better our reputation management, enhance our reliability, and strengthen trust. Of course, it's very important that callers get a good technological experience using our phone tree, but it's also just about trust and reputation management for us. We want to make sure the community feels that when they're going to call, they're going to be heard, and they're going to get the help that they need. So that was all I had, but I'm happy to answer any questions if needed.
Thank you for the work that you put into this. This is so important.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This is so important.
Chair, I just have a brief question. Who's measuring to see if people are actually returning phone calls?
So Macro Connect can pull like that call data that we reviewed. There is like a status column that reports like, was it answered, was it left to voicemail, was it transferred, et cetera. So it does show like, was the call answered, yes or no, and then was it called back. So that could be a good point of measurement we could provide for you if you wanted to like compare, now versus prior to the change.
I think it would be fabulous to have a recap after maybe a month or two of implementation, just to see how this has affected the customer service of the city, especially if we had any data prior to that.
Yeah,
So that we could just benchmark the two.
sure, absolutely.
Through the chair, on slide 4, the current order of the, I see police is 2 and fire is also 2. Does that just mean they're connected to the same menu option?
Sorry, I guess I should have drawn an arrow or something. That is after the other on the first menu. So it only gives 9 prompts, and then it says for more, press 9, and then there's a secondary menu. Yeah, thank you. I should have probably specified that a little better, but yeah, so there's like 2 main menus, essentially. There can only just be 9, per list.
Got it, thank
in the
you.
software. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank you, Riley. All right, item 4C, Ferndale Arts and Beautification Commission Annual Report, and June 2026 Resident Yard Awards.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and the Ferndale community. My name is Suzanne Janik. I am the chair of the Ferndale Arts and Beautification Commission, along with our staff liaison, Michael Olson. We are here to give you a little update on our 2026 plans and a little review of 2025. Sorry. In 2023, the Ferndale Arts Commission and the Ferndale Beautification Commission were combined to create one FAB commission. We became the Ferndale Arts and Beautification Commission. We combined to make one and started enhancing the city more with our team. Sorry. We've taken on several projects, and we've continued on several projects that we've had over the years. We have our beautification awards, which include our summer awards, our Coneflower Award, which is the official flower of Ferndale. We have our Bootification Awards, which come out in October to highlight everyone's spooky decorations, as well as our holiday lights, which come at the end of the year. We also have our think tank and our Ferndale Collective. And the Ferndale Collective is a collection of artists who have registered with our commission, who we can tap into for their expertise when we need advice and or be able to refer someone to help us with a project. The think tank is a biannual meeting that helps local artists meet, brainstorm, and inspire us. The Art March project that started 2 years ago was a direct line from the think tank. The artists said that they wanted opportunities to meet in the community, so we gave them that, working through the DDA. The Pollinator Parade we had our inaugural parade last year. We have, I wrote it up, sorry. Oh, I forgot also, we have flash mobs who have popped up at several events, created a community of celebration. Sorry. Our Pollinator Parade was in 2025. We had our inaugural event. It's an immersive experience to educate and experience the pollinator process. We'll be bringing that back later on this year. Art March and 9 on 9 are weekly events we partner with the DDA to involve, inspire, and entertain the community. We also attend and help promote the arts community and the gardening community within Ferndale. Our beautification awards, like I spoke of earlier, we have monthly awards in the summer and in October and in December that have properties nominated by the public to help to recognize their neighbors. We have beautification in June, beautification in August, coneflower in July, beautification and holiday lights. On the horizon of this year, we have 9 on 9 starting after the 4th of July holiday. Our Pollinator Parade will probably be scheduled in August or September. Our beautification awards are available all year long, and the nomination process can be here at City Hall or found on our social media pages. The think tank is planning an October meeting, and please watch our social media for more updates. And our meetings are open to the public on the third Thursday of the month here at City Hall, and we do have a vacancy on our commission. So we'd love for you to stay connected with us. Our social media are on Facebook and Instagram. We are also available through the webpage of our City Hall, the Ferndale City Hall page. You can find us under the boards and commissions. And we'd like to take this opportunity to thank all that support us here, including our staff liaison, as well as our city council liaison, Rolanda Kelly and Michael Olson. We also have commission members Susie Fisher here and Marianne Williamson here to be. So now we'll move on to our beautification awards for June of 2026. We had Northeast, we had one house nominated, but it had one previously in 2025. So you can only win every 5 years. So we didn't have any nominations for the Northeast. So keep an eye out for houses in the Northeast and definitely submit one. The Northwest, we had 6 houses nominated. In the Southeast, we had 3. And the Southwest, which is always our big contender, had 10 different houses nominated. So our first winner in the Northwest is 315 West Maplehurst. And I have my picture. It's a brick charmer that was built in 1939, 1935, 1938. It was built in the 30s. The current owners have been in the house since 2017, and they bought this brick charmer and introduced much new landscaping and touches of hominess and community. And Jolene and Mark Jacobs are here, and we'd like to invite them up to give us to talk about the house a little bit. You can just tell us. why you like being in Ferndale. What inspired you?
Thank you. Well, we love our neighborhood, and Maplehurst is the best street in Ferndale. And it started as a fixer-upper when we bought it 10 years ago, and everything that, from the sidewalk to the driveway, it used to be a 2-lane driveway, to there was no flower beds, and everything was overgrown, and we just had a lot of fun doing it. So we're really proud of it. Yeah. Thanks.
And we'll get a photo at the end of the event. Our southeast winner is 280 College. This house was built in 1941, and it was recently remodeled in 2023. It became a 1950s bungalow, became extremely modernized. It has touches of textures and touches both timelines, and is a wonderful addition to, wonderful change to the community. Is Andrew here? You are? Come on up.
That big window, that's all.
Like to tell us a little bit?
Sure. So my partner and I bought the house, 4 years ago. I can tell you that I grew up in Michigan, grew up in the Lansing area, and for some reason the little boy in me always wanted to be in Ferndale, and finally made that happen. My partner and I were looking for a great place for us with good community, inclusive community, so thank you to everybody in Ferndale for creating a safe space for all to feel seen, to feel visible. We fell in love with this little place and just wanted to put our little charm and touch to it to just show our personality and to just continue to beautify Ferndale and the neighborhood. And I have to say, College Street is the best street in Ferndale. But in all honesty, we love our neighbors. We love what Ferndale has to offer. So thank you so much for this recognition. We appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Our last house tonight is 1527 Albany. It was built in 1949, and the couple has lived there for 23 years. Well, they said when they moved in, it was just a lawn, and they tried to improve it and said they tried seed and sod, and it just didn't work. They pulled it all up for the environment and decided to do pollinator gardens. They switched to ground cover and plants that feed the flora and fauna, and they said, and then the milkweed popped up. They became a monarch station very quickly. They do let the garden be natural, but they do edit some of the volunteer plants to keep it nice and to their tastes. So this house is, we've used this house in promotion previously, and the homeowners were very excited to be nominated and very excited to be chosen as one of the winners. If you stop by, this house is a buzz right now. As a ploy for the pollinator parade, maybe we should have it here because the bees are going crazy. So is Suzanne here? Nope, they didn't know if they were going to be able to make it, so we're happy to present these awards. We'll take this award and drop it off for them. And thank you for your time.
And Suzanne, that was the category that there were 10 applicants?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, congratulations to the winner.
Okay, can we have everyone come up and take a quick picture? If that's possible?
Do you mean all of you, or you want to
Like all to
include?
come up too?
Okay,
If that's fine?
all right, that's what I was asking, okay. Come on.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. As they're clearing out, we are now at call to audience, where anyone in the audience can speak on something on or off the agenda. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address. And I'm opening call to audience at 7:30.
Good evening, Mayor and honorable members of the City Council. My name's Matt Helms. I live at 3301 Grayson off of Harding Park. I've been a resident of Ferndale for the better part of 30 years. I'm here tonight because the city has a problem with dogs off leash. There are too many people who think their dogs are their dogs are exempt from the city's leash law, and I see it every day at Harding Park. I'm there at least twice a day because my dog insists. On June 10th, I witnessed for the umpteenth time a resident of Inman Street who routinely brings his dog to Harding Park to play fetch off leash. For some reason, the dog, growling, took after one of the young boys there playing softball at the field closest to the parking lot. Nobody had an idea what was going to happen. That boy ran like he was terrified for his life, and all of us were just floored. Luckily, the little boy was not hurt. He was not attacked by the dog, but that's beside the point. These kids and everyone else who attends, goes to any of the parks in Ferndale, and this is happening at parks across Ferndale. You can find out about it in the posts in the Fabulous Ferndale Forum. People reporting their dogs, getting charged by other dogs off leash, getting attacked by dogs. The afternoon the child was chased, the kid's coach told the jerk that the unleashed dog was not welcome there, that they had rented the field for 2 hours. I wasn't as polite. I told him that if I saw the dog again there off leash, I would call the police. He was there a couple more times before I saw him again, because other people are posting about it. And the police went. I don't know. They went and talked to him. I saw that happen. I don't know what happened with him, whether he was cited or anything like that. But clearly, the visit by the police didn't do much to deter him. He was back again a couple more times, and he was there. I saw him there 2 days later, and again reported it to police. I know I speak for many residents tonight in this town, urging the City Council to take action to do more to increase enforcement of our leash law at public parks and elsewhere, along with adding signage to make it clear that at every entrance that our parks are not off-leash parks. We have a dog park. There are dog parks all over Metro Detroit. I know of several of them where I take my dog to let him run, knowing the risks, and other people bring their dogs there also knowing the risks. We don't do that at public parks here. We're expecting to be safe there, and it's a matter of public safety, and I'd hope against hope that it doesn't take a next time where someone's pet is killed or a kid is mauled before something is done. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Hello. All right. Good evening, everyone. Kevin Roach from West Marshall Street. Speaking on concerning the Ferndale Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Commission. Our next meeting is going to be next Monday, the 29th at 6:30 p.m. This is due to July being Disability Pride Month, so there will be no meeting for the month of July, though we will resume meetings on the first Monday of August. In the meantime, there is the Disability Pride Ice Cream Social, which will be held at Jim's Community Corner on Thursday, July 16th from 5 to 7. And and going back to the initial commission meeting, what I'm hoping that we can discuss, and I actually invite anyone present here who is interested in sitting in to do so, and possibly even sign up. And of course, this goes to the folks watching this on YouTube as well. Hi. Among topics that I'm hoping gets brought up there is returning from the last city council meeting. A topic that was brought up was on ordinances on gas-powered leaf blowers with the noise they cause, and I actually was contacted by another citizen asking that we also extend it to other very loud lawn care equipment, which yes, that'll also be, and also something that should be looked into, as well as noise issues that citizens have had on the east side of Ferndale concerning drones flying over, and I do think that's something worth discussing further. Yes, we'll address in the meeting, but I would also like to have council also be considering actions on their end, where it doesn't matter which part of Ferndale you're in, east, west, north, south, you don't have to deal with the annoying of drones flying over you. That's what I've got in mind. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Savannah. I live at 2147 Shevlin Street, and I am just here to ask that all of you in this room and on YouTube vote yes for the 2 library millages on the August 4th ballot, and encourage your friends and neighbors to vote yes. Contrary to popular belief, I actually don't work at the library. I just love the library so much that I help it a lot, and people think I work there. Myself and many volunteers have spent so many hours talking to neighbors because we love the library. So we've been going door to door, asking that our neighbors vote yes, explaining the millages, explaining all the different things that the library does. And I just want to reiterate, we got no stake in the game except for that we love the library and we love what it does for our community. And truly, I haven't had a regular weekend in like 2 months, and I won't until the election is over, because I'll be out talking to my neighbors every weekend, because that's how important this is to me and to my fellow volunteers. The library is more than just the center of our community physically. It is also, to me, like our community center. It's the first place I made friends, and not just friends, but like I got that feeling of knowing your neighbors, where you go to a space and then you start to see people around town, and that was all through going to the library and library activities. It's the place that made Ferndale feel like home in a way that I've been looking for a place to feel like home for a long time. So it's very important to me. And I think it's very important to a lot of residents for that same reason. Drew and the library board do an amazing job of balancing the library budget while also making sure that the amazing staff is compensated and taken care of. And if you ever have questions, you can check their budget reports that go out monthly. They're very thorough. So mostly I'm just here to ask that you vote yes for the library. We had a strategic plan session, or we just built our strategic plan. I was on the committee for that as well. And the feedback we got from Ferndale residents was that they actually want the library to do more, and we can't do more with less money. So we need you to vote yes so that we can continue the great work the library is doing and do even more. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Barbara Blaze, and I live at 564 East Maplehurst, and I've lived there since 1977, and I know I've spoke to a couple of you people when you were campaigning. Back in 2012, they passed an ordinance to allow open burning, and I just read that you all passed an ordinance about balloons affecting the environment and people's safety. Well, it's when there's a nice night and you get to open your windows and all you get to smell is somebody burning. Now, if I want a campfire, I normally go to a campground. Our houses are very close, and thank God nothing has happened. But I should not have to close my windows due to somebody wanting to have a campfire in their backyard. Back in 2012, maybe they didn't have propane fire pits or smokeless fire pits, but they do now. So I'm requesting that you replace the open burn, to them to be able to have a smokeless fire pit or a propane fire pit if they want the ambiance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is
Your time is, what, go ahead.
my name is Rochelle Bono. I am a Hazel Park resident. However, I frequent Ferndale at least 3 times a week, and I'm also a former resident of Ferndale. I am disabled with Tourette syndrome, and I'm also a cyclist. I don't have a vehicle, but I also cycle by choice for my physical health and to also manage my Tourette symptoms. It's part of my care routine. And for the past several years, there has been a history of the Ferndale police not addressing cycling safety. There's been numerous incidences where I have called because there were reckless drivers that put my safety in danger. And I'm already somebody who has survived being hit by a vehicle while riding my bicycle. I have further permanent damage to my body because of it, and PTSD. And so when I call the Ferndale police to report a reckless driver and I get dismissed or transferred to a voicemail or hung up on, it really makes me feel like they don't care. And then there was even an incident last year where it was during a time period that overlapped Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month and Bicycle Safety Month, where I was almost hit down a residential street and 2 officers showed up and ended up victimizing me and causing my medical conditions to flare up to the point to where I requested the mental health officer to come intervene. And so they don't have training on how to de-escalate when it comes to people with Tourette. So this is kind of like a dual thing that I'm trying to address. And the final thing is there's too many times I'm witnessing the Ferndale police pulling people over in the bicycle lane. And twice it has personally affected my safety, once on Woodward and once on 9 Mile. And one of my doctors is across from the bowling alley, and that's the primary place I see them utilizing the bicycle lanes, and it's always when the bowling parking lot is empty. And I've even called numerous times and tried to talk with them about it, and they always tell me that it's a shared road. The bicycle lane is a shared road. And then they tell me that police have the right to utilize that lane, but I thought that it was if there was no other safe spot. And they tell me that they have no control over where the driver pulls over, and they typically pull it behind them, and that it's too unsafe for the officer to get out and ask the person to pull up a little further to a safer area. And so I've started uploading videos of the police impeding bicycle lanes, and they're gaining attention, and I would like this to be addressed because it's putting me in danger, and I've already had to go into traffic numerous times because of them. And especially with the tragedy that just happened last week, there needs to be a closer look at how the bicycle lanes are laid out on Woodward, and just the officers need to stop pulling people over in the bicycle lanes. It's not okay to put cyclists in jeopardy just because they say that it's too dangerous for them to get out and confront the person and have them pull up.
Thank you, Rochelle.
And so that's
Thank you.
my whole thing.
Thank you very much.
you.
Hello, Dennis Weddy, 1510 Camden. Back here on the regular agenda item, which is the charter amendment. I was here last meeting. First, I just wanted to appreciate the city manager for reaching out. After that, she said, hey, what are you looking at? What are you proposing? Unfortunately, I didn't get any language to her until Thursday, which is the council packet deadline. It was like noon, so there was barely any time. So, but I appreciate you reaching out and asking. The issue last time, as we've already talked about, is that archaic 1927 provision that states a council member who has an unexpired term must resign their seat in order to run for mayor. 15 days before the filing deadline, which the concept is right on. It's the process was not helpful. And so I was proposing that basically that council person should not have to resign 10 days before, but that once they make their intent known, they file intent to run for office for mayor, that seat will become vacant at the end of the year. So they don't have to leave their seat 10 days prior. They still stay on the council through the end of the year. And what would happen is that seat would be on that very same ballot to avoid what we've been referring to as the musical chairs, appointment process and things like that. I do appreciate the city attorney's office. They have proposed some language with regard to section 9, which is how to fill appointments and to make that a faster process. So I think that is an improvement, but I don't think it addresses the underlying issue. And that is that you would still have the appointment. If a person runs for mayor who has an unexpired term, they get, if they become mayor, then everybody else has to appoint. And there's at least going to be 120 days. Again, there's a musical chair and appointment versus a cleaner process where the voters decide, not politicians, that says, hey, at that same election, that seat is also up for ballot, up for election. I view when you run for city council, it's like a contract. You're making an offer to the voters, the people, to say, hey, vote for me, I'm going to serve for 4 years. And if the voters accept and they vote for you, contract is made. But what we currently have on the ballot as of last time is that basically that provision's gone and the seat would be filled by the rest of the council. And that breaks the contract, right? And one could say, yeah, well, they're running for mayor, so if the people voted for them, then that's exactly what they wanted, and so they're getting that. But the contract was for the other seat. And the people, they may love that person running for mayor. They may not vote for him because they don't want to see, them lost or whatever the case may be. But either way, it causes a lot of confusion. I do appreciate last meeting, the mayor voting no. I think it is rushed. I think these should all be on one ballot. We're rushing for November. I'm not sure why. There's no urgency to this. Let's just try to get it right. I have sent language to the city manager reflecting exactly that. And the reason I was delayed is because I want to propose language. I just didn't want to get up and complain and say this is how it should be. I proposed exact language and said, hey, take a look at this. So I appreciate you listening. I appreciate the manager reaching out, and thank you all again. Appreciate it.
Any more for call to audience? Are there any individuals who are on the consent agenda to be appointed or reappointed to boards and commissions that'd like to introduce themselves? Okay. All right. Then I'm closing call to audience at 7:47, and we're moving on to the consent agenda. Item 7A, approval of the June 8th, 2026 meeting minutes. 7B, approval of the listed appointments and reappointments to city boards and commissions. 7C, approval of the special event permit for Vester Alley Stroll on Saturday, July 25th, 2026. 7D, approval of wage increase for non-union administrative employees. 7E, approval of amendments to the city manager's employment agreement. 7F, approval of fiscal year 27 downtown maintenance service agreement with the Ferndale Downtown Development Authority. 7G, approval of professional services agreement with OHM Advisors for DPW mechanical upgrades in the amount not to exceed $69,800. 7H, approval of leaf vacuum repairs by Rhodes Welding Company, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $20,800, excuse me. 7I, approval for UIS SCADA to replace the operator interface terminal at the Albany Booster Station in the amount of $6,075. 7J, approval of professional services agreement with OHM Advisors for the City Hall lift replacement design and construction administration in the amount not to exceed $17,500. 7K, approval of the Land and Water Conservation Fund Development Project Agreement with the Michigan Department of National Resources for the Martin Road Park Playground Expansion Project. And 7L, approval of bills and payrolls as submitted by the Finance Director and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. May I have a
Move
motion?
to accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're going on to the regular agenda now. It is item 8A, approval of the fiscal year 2027 lead service line replacement program contracts. And we will need a motion for that. Let me just pull that up here. The motion is to approve the fiscal year 2027 lead service line replacement program contracts with D'Angelo Brothers and Son Building, Inc. for the planned emergency lead service line replacement work and combined not to exceed the amount of $1,237,000, and to approve lead service line verification work with D'Angelo Brothers and not to exceed the amount of $500,000 for a total authorization of $1,737,000 from the Water and Sewer Fund, this small, with $400,000 in federal reimbursement for eligible verification costs, and authorize the DPW director to sign contract documents following approval by the city attorney. You don't have to repeat that, we just need, we need someone to, a motion and a second to discuss it and to hear the presentation. Anyone?
Mayor, I move that we approve the fiscal year 2027 lead service line replacement program as described by you in the previous bit.
Support.
You're up. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that's a mouthful, but simply put, this
Yes.
is the lead service line replacement program for fiscal year 2027, and this is our contract recommendation. So, program context, the lead service line replacement program is a long-term infrastructure program replacing lead service lines, and it's driven by mandate and compliance with state and federal regulation. The replacement work, this involves a few things. I'll get into that. I think I've simplified it. I know it's a little complicated, but I wanted to kind of talk about everything all at once that goes into this program. So replacement work is the first thing that involves removing known lead and galvanized service lines. Verification work reduces unknowns, improves future planning, satisfies state guidelines. I'll talk a little bit more about what those two things are as well. For fiscal year 2027, I'll mention that's an interim year between prior state revolving loan fund funded work, in which we did about 500 replacements per year, and larger planned replacement years that are going to come soon if we're to stay on the mark to get 100% completion by 2037. And we plan on doing more next year, and we will also be coordinating that with a water rate study that will take place and will cover the years 5 years, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. So this current request, the reason it's so complicated is because it includes, I won't say complicated, I'll just say wordy. I think it's simple once we get into it, but there are planned replacements, emergency replacements, and federally supported verification work. So where we're at today, to give a little bit more context, we have completed 2,302 replacements. We've identified 1,223 copper services. We have 4481 services remaining unverified. We're planning on, our planning rate for replacement is roughly 57%. We have approximately 10,000 services overall, so we started with about 5,700 lead services. If you do the math, that means we have about 3,600 left. We have enough data now. We've gone through 5.5 years of programming. This is a very data-intense process. We're pretty sure that we're going to be close to 3,600, and it will be give or take, but we are pretty accurate. We remain confident in that number. So planned replacements for this year, we have 150. That is what we budgeted for. And yeah, again, this is an interim program year before we have a larger replacement target. So how we project the remaining work, we again have very good data. We know that full replacements make up about 66.5 of those 3,600 left, because that is what we found in the last 2,300, and additionally through some of our verification work. Private side only, which is 14%, is the cheapest of the three types of replacement. Public side only is more expensive. That's a little bit higher. Unfortunately for us, most of ours are full, and those are high because obviously it's the whole thing combined. And the reason public side is higher than private side is because there's roadway restoration and you're doing hard surface repair. So the program average that we use for planning, for budgeting purposes, is about 7,500 based on that split and how much we pay unit cost per replacement. So this is all what our city data allows us to project. I'll just mention that this is a little different than some projects. Typical infrastructure project, like a water main, we know that there's 2,000 linear feet of main. You get a price for that based on 8-inch pipe. You know there's 24 service connections. This works a little different. So it's really, if you had a chance to look at the attachments, there's cost per unit based on length of service, again, private side, public side, full side, soil and seed restoration, concrete restoration. So there's not really a process where you say we have 100 homes, give us a price for all of those, because there's so many unknowns that get figured out through field verification throughout the construction process that these are almost entirely unit-based costs. And then to price check, Ferndale's program average remains in line with local and national cost expectations, and these are based on the current cost that we would see through opting into the SACWA and WRC contract, which I'll explain a little bit later. So, changing regulatory landscape. Our current minimum requirement per the state guidelines is 5% of verified lead services, and it's a little more complicated than that because it's an average over a 20-year term, but that 20-year term is changing. Right now, that means that this year we have approximately 53 replacements that will be mandated, and we need to hit that before January 1. We need to report that to the state, or we'll be in violation of that rule. Future requirements may and likely will. Jeff and I were both at a conference on a panel with Eagle. They stated that they are going to restructure this. 2037 gives 10 years, 100% divided by 10 is 10%. So most likely scenarios that the annual replacement will now be 10%. We're also hearing federally and state regulators will likely include at some point, maybe not next year, but the following year, unknowns in that replacement pool. So if you have 4,000 unknowns and 1,000 knowns, you have 5,000 in your pool, you get 10% of that. That gets us to approximately 500. So it is going to go up, and it is going to go up soon. That is going to change as we do verifications, as we do replacements, but for the first couple of years, it is likely that we'll be closer to 500 than 150, or 53 rather. So long-term cost and funding context, again, a lot of this is about long-term, just because this is a big project. I like to make sure that we're aware of what these spending requirements are. Projected remaining replacements, again, we have 3,600. The base for that at today's dollars is about $26.5 million to do those. The estimated low cost estimate, so that is adding 4.5 inflation over that 10-year term, is 33.6 million, and then escalated high, which is 7.5 annual cost escalation, is roughly $40 million. So big project, 10 years, $4 million a year, that's a large amount of money. So the compliance deadline again is 2037, and this is why, because of the large amount of money, the staggering amount of money, water rate study is going to be necessary, and it's going to help guide us for the next 5 years, and that includes our capital planning. And then I will mention as well that we continue to apply for SRF funding annually for communities like us. It is not necessarily a grant. There is a small portion of forgiveness. I believe it was 3 to 5% forgiveness on the total cost. So of that $12 million, I want to say that we got 400,000 forgiven. But we do not expect to be more competitive unless the application process changes. And even if it does change, I'll also say that there is far more need than funding available. And that comes through the state via federal government. So, program and authorization. This is where I hopefully take something that started complicated and simplify it. We have 3 things that we're trying to do through this contract. We have planned replacements, of which we have about 150. That is about $1,125,000. We have emergency placements. This is something that we budget for every year. These are literally service line breaks. We find lead at the curb stop. You cannot reconnect to lead. That's a violation of the lead and copper law. There is a very rare, onerous way to do that emergency connection, but we avoid that. We use a contractor to do a full copper replacement. We budget about $112,000. Well, actually, exactly $112,000 in 2027 for those replacements. Verification work, of which we pay roughly $710, I believe, is a unit cost through WRC contract, and that's a little bit higher than we would pay if we didn't have Davis-Bacon. I always forget if it's Davis-Beacon or Davis-Bacon Act, but there's cost of living requirements when you receive federal appropriations. So we would get about $704 for $500,000. $400,000 is the federal reimbursement that the city manager's office was able to receive through Haley Stevens. We actually talked at a GLEWA outreach meeting to kind of present our need to the community and the congressperson. And yeah, so the total authorization for all that work is $1.7 million. With that federal reimbursement, the net cost to the city is about $1.3 million. And we would like to, and we're recommending to use two contractors. We're recommending to use D'Angelo Brothers to do 120 planned replacements and emergency replacements. They are the contractor that we can opt into with SACWA, the Oakland County Water Association, and WRC, which is the County Water Association. We would like to use Sunday Brothers as well to do 30 planned replacements. So of that 150, we would like to split, use 30 for them. They've submitted pricing that is in line. Some unit costs are actually cheaper than the contracts we would like to opt into. And then in addition to their work, we would like to supplement that cost and perform roadway and lawn restoration for their replacements as feasible through DPW to claw back even a little bit more money, because that means that we can put that money into getting more lead out of the ground. Again, federal grants, $400,000. There's a $100,000 city match that was not budgeted for. I missed that, but we do have fund balance that can cover that $100,000. Assignments and final totals may vary based on field conditions. Again, with unit cost, we could plan for 150, have a few more fulls or a few more partials, so that number could change. And then 120 to D'Angelo, 30 to Sunday is kind of something that may change as well, just based on installations in the field, scheduling, actual replacements. So the action requested, we would like to approve contracts with D'Angelo Brothers by opting into the SACWA contract for replacements, WRC contract for verifications, and Sunday Building to do replacements. And we would like to authorize replacement and emergency work not to exceed $1.2 million, verification work not to exceed $500,000, again with the $400,000 grant for the total authorization of $1,737,000 from the Water and Sewer Fund. And then if you're interested, I did want to include that East Maplehurst, La Prairie, and Inman are the scheduled streets if we're able to do 150 replacements.
You say that again, please?
East Maplehurst, La Prairie, and Inman. And I would be happy to take questions.
Regarding the $400,000 grant that we received, is that an amount that the city asked for? That was the amount, the allotment of the grant? And are we able to, is there opportunity for us to continue to go out for this type of grant that we know of?
That is, and that will, and we'll actually talk a little bit more about federal appropriations in the next item, because that's something that we're looking for a much larger amount than $400,000.
Okay.
But to my understanding, James submitted the grant funding request, and if it's similar to 8 Mile, I didn't submit it, but I believe it is. He submitted to Haley Stevens' office. We were granted that, and typically you submit a match at which you think you'll be more competitive to receive those funds.
So this is the amount that they came up with? Okay, all right.
Yep, and I believe that's 80-20 match.
All right.
Through the chair, does this contract, approval of this contract, lock us in with D'Angelo Brothers and Sunday Building through 2037, the completion of the entire project, or it's a specific scope and then we reassess continually?
It will just be 1 year.
1 year,
yeah.
okay.
And it'll
Yeah,
be
that's what-
likely a calendar year. There will be a budget amount. We expect that we'll get about 150 plus the 15 emergencies or 12 emergencies. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but there will be a set budget, 1.7, 1.2, which for replacements and emergency work, and then the 500,000 for verifications. And then once that's expended, that's it. So the contract
Is off
runs
that-
through the
that-
budget, and then it's over, and then we start again in 2028.
Do we pay them only for the number of emergency replacements done, or we make this assumption and then they get that allotment regardless?
Only for work performed. This is just an assumption based on the past several years. Emergencies occur, roughly $112,000 worth. We do adjust that annually to account for inflation, and that's where that number comes from. But that typically covers, in a normal year, the emergency replacements that happen for a calendar year.
Right, thank you.
Well, a fiscal year, which is a calendar year.
Through the chair, I had a quick question about an item that you had on your slide that mentioned the water rate study that will guide our 2028 to 2032 funding strategy.
Yep.
Are we anticipating water rate increases? Is that what I'm reading here?
I don't think I would say we're anticipating anything. We do have a budget now. This is the last year of the former water rate study, and I believe that our budget included increases based on that. So that just assumed that those increases would continue, but it's really not possible to say what we need to do until we have a water rate study, because that's not actually looking at any of the finance options. It's really just, here's the list of expenses, here's the revenue, this is where it needs to be, and then it kind of sets that up. So it's something that the city manager could maybe talk to a little bit better than me, but really that number is going to depend on that study.
Yes, we did budget for a new 5-year rate study to occur in fiscal year '27. So we can't say how that will go until we complete that study. We should have proposals back for that for council consideration late summer, and then hopefully complete that work before the end of the calendar year, so that you're all making a determination. You have a few months before you make the determinations that would become effective July 1 of '27.
I'm sorry, the water rate study, is this a study to determine what the rate should be by benchmarking against other cities?
No, so this is, I mean, they do evaluate other cities' rates as part of that process, but this is really kind of a financial balance sheet sort of activity. It's going to look at everything that it costs us to operate our current system, so our current operating costs and all of our capital needs, and then the cost of completing that capital in accordance with our CIP, and then make recommendations of what rates we would need to capture in order to meet those obligations.
Through the chair, how do we compare with other cities, similar cities? I'm just trying to, do you have like a sense of if state, federal funding is going to open up a little bit more between now and then? Like, are we on an island on this one?
Well, do you mean, as far as state and federal funding success goes, or do you mean in terms of water rates in general?
No, and I'm sorry, I would clarify, in terms of how many lead line replacements we have. I'm trying to, it's a lot of money. I'm just trying to get a sense of your best guess,
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good because of the year that we were built out, prior to World War II. I actually have, and I'll share with council, Jeff and I put together, because this is, again, very data intense. I don't want to rattle off a bunch of numbers and be wrong. We have a study that we put together prior to that Eagle presentation that goes over the entire history, puts everything into context, goes over how many verifications have happened, when we qualified for SRF funding, how those funds were spent. I would be happy to share this with council. This is something that can be shared to the public. But in general, most of our housing stock was built out prior to the 1940s. Before that, it's mostly lead. We've been replacing main since the mid-90s. As we did that, we know that there's copper between the water main and the curb stop. So we're good there, but at the time, it was still acceptable to connect copper from the main to the curb stop and leave lead from the curb stop to a home. So it is not great. I'm trying to remember from that Eagle panel, but one of our slides compared us to other cities, and we were in the top 5 at the time of the first distribution systems maintenance inventory. I can't remember what the M means, but it was not good. We were in the top 5 with other cities much larger than us for number of unknowns if you looked at percentage. Now, we were a little bit lower than some, but that's because those others had 40 or 50,000 service lines. Percentage-wise, we were right there in the top for just not having a lot of known records. And part of the reason that some other places had better records than us is not necessarily that things were lost. It's that they had code ordinance that said prior to lead and copper laws requiring it that you could not connect into a lead. So it's really the system age in Ferndale that kind of put us behind the 8 ball for lead service lines.
And so there are other cities in the same situation as us, and those SRF and other grant dollars like very competitive? And I mean, is it sort of that your sense, and what
Yes.
do you anticipate? Yeah, okay. Do you
Yeah,
anticipate it opening up anytime soon?
Yeah, and there is a bunch of context in this, and I will share this, but we're usually 30 spots behind, and in a list of 50, and the first 20 get funding. So we're not even close based on the parameters. Detroit is a similar city. Benton Harbor used to be. They received multiple millions. I don't want to put a number on it because I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a lot. It was enough for them to do, I think, their entire city all at the same time. That funding is not available. You know, we do a presentation at the end of every year to go over the status, how many we performed. So we will talk about this again in winter. We'll talk about, of the 150 that we planned, how many we got to. We will provide context on whether we're successful in that state revolving loan fund application, because we do apply every year. And we'll talk about that a little bit. One of the important slides that I think you'll maybe not appreciate because it's not painting a great picture, but it'll show the overall need from the entire nation, and we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars, and then it'll talk about the actual amount that comes from the federal government, and that's maybe 3%, 4% of the need. And then that gets applied to the state, and sometimes it can be a little bit better, sometimes it can be a little bit worse, just based on what Michigan State gets from the federal government.
That's bleak, but that's helpful context. Thank you. It's good information.
Any questions regarding the lead service replacement program contracts? I guess, are we almost there?
We're close to halfway in a few years.
Okay, all right. All right, well, we have a motion and a second, so we need a roll call.
Mikulski,
Yes.
Sabatini,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
LaSalle,
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. Thank you.
Mayor and council.
Will you be staying right there? All right. Our second our second agenda item is the approval of Giffords and Webster Professional Services Agreement for 8 Mile Road Water Main Improvement Design, and the motion is to approve the professional services agreement with Giffords and Webster for the 8 Mile Road Water Main Improvements in the amount of $242,727, and authorize DPW Director to sign the contract documents following approval by the city attorney. I need to expand that as far as visual. We will need a motion and a second for discussion.
Madam Mayor, motion to approve as presented?
Second.
All right, you're up.
Thank you. So 8 Mile Water Main design bid contract recommendation is what I'd like to talk about. So context for that. The purpose is to approve design-only agreement for 8 Mile Road water main improvements. I'm going to repeat this a few times, but this is not including construction. That contract approval will happen at a later date. So the project area is 8 Mile Road corridor from Pinecrest Drive to Woodward Avenue. Why this corridor matters and why it's a little bit complex is it's a major regional road. There's about 44,000 average daily traffic. It is a older 85-year-old cast iron 12-inch water main in a system like ours that's considered sort of a transmission main. So it serves a lot of the residential as well as the businesses on 8 Mile and the residential from 9 Mile to 8 Mile in the southwest corner of our city. So it has a history of breaks. We haven't had one in about 8 years, but it is an 85-year-old cast iron pipe. And importantly, when it breaks in the middle of 8 Mile south of the median on the Detroit side of the street. We have an opportunity here as well to relocate the main into our green belt for better long-term access, more efficient operation, and it'd be safer for our workers to work on it, perform maintenance. Current request, again, is design, survey, geotechnical, environmental, permitting, and bidding services. So this is pretty much everything that starts the process rolling and then finishes after bidding, and then after that would be construction. So a little bit of context on how we plan water main improvement projects. This is our water main improvement project for the next 5 years. Because this is a major corridor, this is a 12-inch cast iron, it is a long run, it is a very expensive program compared to others. So we've got University, Channing, those are for 2030, and we like to pair a long residential run with a short residential run. Usually these would come to about 1.75 to 2.25 million. That's about what we spend annually on these water main replacements. And then Hazelhurst and Jewel would be scheduled for 2031.
I'm sorry, could you say that dollar amount again for how much we've spent on the breaks? Or you said a dollar amount. Maybe it wasn't for the breaks.
But what I was saying is typically what we spend for 1 year of water main replacement programming is about 1.5 to 2, or 1.75 to 2.25 for water main replacement programs. And then we do that every year. We have 15 to 20 years of capital projects lined up. We need to revisit that. We actually have some resiliency and condition assessment studies that we're in the middle of that are state and EPA requirements that are going to kind of provide condition assessments, I always forget, consequence failure reports. We look at history of main breaks, and then we kind of use that to prioritize our pipes. We do have a number of which, as I mentioned earlier, about mid-90s is when we started these replacements in earnest, and we will be doing them until they start back over again. That's just how the water systems work. So DPW plans water main replacements, again, across a multi-year capital schedule. 8 Mile is currently shown as a larger 3-year. Because it's a larger price tag, the following planned projects are smaller, 1 year. I show these too because if federal funding, if we're unsuccessful in receiving federal funding, we may recommend moving one of these smaller 1-year projects forward while keeping 8 Mile in the capital plan. So if that was the case, we may recommend to move 2030 up to do construction in 2027, spring of next year, and then move the 3 years for 8 Mile back to 28, 29, 30, so that we have another at bat to receive federal funding. So one of the questions we get a lot is, why do we replace a water main before it fails? And if you kind of think about it, I'm sure it's been, well, I know it's been in the news lately, what happens, consequence of failure, when a water main breaks unexpectedly. Service reliability and service disruption is the biggest risk. Unplanned outages, emergency repairs, those can come with, if you boil water advisories, long-term disruptions. Anytime we have to work on an emergency main repair, you have to find 2 valves to turn off that section. Sometimes those valves can cut out 1 block, hopefully sometimes 2 blocks, 3 more, if there are valves that don't work and you have to go to the next adjacent blocks, and that does happen a lot of times with emergency repairs. So breaks on 8 miles, breaks on an 8-mile road can create major traffic, will create major traffic. Many of the areas are under the 2nd lane south of the median on the Detroit side. So all eastbound traffic has to get diverted from the 3 lanes closest to the median down to 1 lane. It's a 4-lane road. You can imagine 22,000 vehicles daily going eastbound. That is a mess, and it's not great for traffic, and it's terrible for the people that are working on the roadway. Fire flow and capacity is also something that we look at. Older restricted mains can support daily service, but they provide less capacity during peak demand or fire emergencies. For context, what we often have when we have a 100-year-old, 85-year-old cast iron, specifically main, a 6-inch can look closer to a 5-inch, and fire flow needs 500 to 1,500 gallons per minute, and that is reduced the more constriction that pipe gets through aging. So water quality as well. Older cast iron mains can contribute to discoloration, sediment, customer complaints. Treatment does minimize that by treating the water in a way that basically coats the sediment and the crust, which is kind of gross to think of, on the inside of that, so that way water doesn't get pull from that cast iron crust. So long-term cost control. Planned work is easier to coordinate, less disruptive than emergency replacement. Every water emergency break that happens prior to a replacement is just an investment that you don't get back. You still have to replace a pipe. It's not like you can fix a section and then leave it for another 75 years. You always are going to have to replace that. So any emergency repair is money spent on something that wasn't replaced. So a couple things. I just wanted to go over. The red is what we currently have. So you can see this is 8 Mile between Livernois and Garbett Park. Our current water main path is on the Detroit side of that median. You actually look towards Livernois. There's some additional complexity that is kind of a hangover from the 1930s when a lot of this infrastructure was put in place. So there's 2 pipes that run under those lanes. So it's 2 more points of failure, 2 more 85-year pipes that shouldn't exist. And then you can see these red lines that run perpendicular through our residential streets. Those are also starting there, making a connection and then looping and then going across. There's also no reason for that additional complexity and point of failure. So the green lines are one of the sections along that entire boundary that we're looking to install. And those are basically going to take out of service everything south of those and then install a 12-inch line under the greenbelt and sidewalk on the Ferndale side of the border. So you can see this is an ideal situation here. What exists below us is just there are a lot of points of failure, and at some point they're going to fail again. And then if you look at the graphic at the bottom, the water main is under the 2nd lane from the median. And because we need room for shoring and trenching, that means that 3 of those traffic lanes will be closed for that work. Takes probably up to a day, potentially 2, if something else happens when you're replacing and repairing that 12-inch main, the section that blows out. So you have a day at least, potentially 2, where 3 lanes of traffic are closed. Then after that, you can backfill. You have to put in a concrete base, and then that base takes 7 to 10 days to cure. You should be able to open up a couple additional lanes at that point, but you'll still have barricade in the middle of 8 Mile that has to stay in place for 7 to 10 days. Then you do the asphalt, so you're talking about maybe 2 weeks worth of work that is impacting traffic on 8 Mile. If we replace it, most of that can actually just be dead-ended in place, separated from the current system and left there because there will no longer be water in it. And then I just showed a cross-section of a pipe just so you understand what I mean when I say, and 6 inches really what we have in a lot of our residential areas. Those are our older main. And then a lot of times we end up with a 5-inch or less effective opening, which just constricts the flow of water. Funding strategy and why we're designing this now. So the funding approach, the city is pursuing federal funding for construction. So similar to the $400,000 that we were able to get from Haley Stevens, we have requested with both of our Michigan Senate offices federal funding to pay for a portion of this project. This, again, requires a local match. The city selected a realistic match to keep the request competitive. You'll note that it was 80-20 for the verification. We were only asking for $400,000 at that point. We're asking for $3.63 million now. So we've scaled back a little bit to try to be more competitive. We elected a 75-25 match. We're awaiting feedback from this first submission. If we do not get it, this feedback will be helpful for future applications. And that makes the city match 1.21 for the entire project, so 4.8 total. Why we're designing it now, this improves our project readiness. If we are given that federal appropriation, we will need to move on this project quickly. We will need a design in hand so that we can start construction next year. And either way, this supports federal funding competitiveness. We can show that we're moving the ball forward for the next round. The federal government wants to put money towards something that they know is going to happen in a timely manner and is going to get moving, and that the city actually has some skin in the game on. So this kind of proves that this is something that we have. It's in our capital plan. This is something that needs to occur. We're not just asking for money. This allows the city to bid this if the winter funding is awarded again, strengthens our future applications because it shows progress. So again, important clarification, this approval is only for the design. So I've talked about some numbers, but what we're asking for now is just to design this. Construction would return to council separately, following hearing back on funding in the fall, at which point, if we have it, if we don't, there may be a recommendation to go with a different program. So the design scope and cost. Topographic survey documents the existing field and utility conditions, geotechnical investigation, provides soil and underground information, environmental subsurface investigation, identifies potential subsurface issues prior to construction. All of these are required before designing and creating construction documents, and a lot are needed for permitting. Woodward Heights, we actually had to do some environmental boring and sampling to satisfy an Eagle requirement. All these water main construction projects do need to be permitted. We do need to apply. In this case, it's on 8 Mile, so there'll be some traffic plan requirements that have to go through the state, county, and Eagle will also need permitting. So part of this work supports the required agency approvals once they've generated those documents and done those field investigations, and then it will end with bidding support. So they'll manage contractor questions, addenda, bid recommendation that we'll bring to council once it comes back, once we're able to find federal funding. So the contract summary is to Giffords Webster. They have been designing our water main projects since we began them in the mid-90s. For the design, it's about it's exactly 4.77% of the total project. It's typically about 5% of a large water main project goes towards design up to bid. And for this project, that number is $242,727. And then I'll just mention that good design improves the project cost accuracy, supports our grant applications, reduces construction unknowns, gives the city sealed plans, bid documentation needed to competitively price the work prior to construction. So again, the action requested here is to approve the professional services agreement with Giffords Webster for design-only services for the 8 Mile Road water main improvements in an amount not to exceed $242,727. And I won't read the clarification for the 5th time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Seeing as to how this is so close to the Detroit side, is Detroit not affected by this at all?
I would say that
I'm just wondering if there's opportunity for maybe some sort of partnership is all.
So yes, traffic disruption, obviously, our economies are tied together. We have reached out to Detroit. We have reached out to MDOT. We have a letter of recommendation from GLEWA. We're looking for a letter of support from all of those affected organizations to send to the federal government in the hopes that our grant funding application will be successful. But water system-wise, this does not affect Detroit at all. We get our water from Gliwa at 2 metered points. Water no longer, like in the 30s, yes, it did. It went back and forth over the border, but now our water is our water and Detroit's water is Detroit's water, and the two don't actually mix.
Through the chair, so I forget what slide it was, but you mentioned that if the federal funding doesn't come through, your recommendation would be to move a shorter project to the front. Is there a reason we? Sorry. Yeah.
Likely, yes.
Likely. Okay, likely. So I guess I'm wondering, is there a reason we don't start with the shorter projects while we apply for the grants, and then part two of if we have to do that, how long do these design plans stay relevant?
Yeah, so two things. I'll answer the first about design. That can be shelved. We won't apply for a lot of the permitting that has expiration date. Not a lot is going to change in the next 5 to 7 years, so it may be that this project moves several times. If we design it now and let's say we revisit it, we are successful in 2030 or 2031, there may be some engineering hours just to update some of the numbers, but a bulk of that work will be done now. And then to answer the first question, the reason this is there is because we've prioritized it, and we do use a condition matrix that includes age, consequence of failure, emergency repairs, safety. There's a condition assessment that gets done on every water main. This is a cast iron main. Cast iron main is not really a material that we use in the field anymore, so that it's a little bit higher on the priority list because of that as well. And as I said, residential between 8 and 9 in the southwest side of the city this is almost like a transmission main throughout our system. So all these water systems are best when they're looped, and they should be looped from a 12-inch. So that provides a lot of water on all the neighboring residential.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And
so, yeah. Oh,
I would add to that too. There's a cost efficiency, and that's why our first preference would be to do the larger project as opposed to approaching this as a segmented project from the beginning. There's additional mobilization costs, additional costs to bidding that go into segmenting the project that make it slightly less cost efficient than doing the full project at once.
Great, helpful, thank you. I think I have just one last thing. How's technology advancing? Are these things lasting longer than they have been? Or just an educational question if you don't have the answer?
They are not. 75 to 100 years is typical that I'm aware of. I mean, it may be that they're lasting a little bit longer, but a lot of I think a lot of the technology really came in the 70s and 80s, so maybe it's going to take a little while for us to know definitively whether these last longer. 100 years is great. A cast iron that's 85 years old is going to look a lot worse than a cement-lined pipe that's 12-inch 85 years from now. It just is, because it's not gonna degrade on the inside like a cast iron pipe is. So it's maybe not necessarily that it lasts longer, but for the last 25 to 30 years, it will provide a higher quality, higher capacity, higher volume of water for the system, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. How are the concrete mains at preventing roots from growing into them? Is that an issue?
No, it's not. I mean, it's very atypical. I should have made Michael stay for a minute because he probably could answer this better than me, but I have never heard of a root entering a water main. I mean, that's typically a closed system. And I'll just say that the way roots usually move is path of least resistance. It's going to be very hard for it to get inside of a water main. It's a closed system. It's a pressurized system. It's not a high pressure, but that root is going to follow the main before it goes in there, because it's not really going to get water out of it unless there's a leak. And if there's a leak, it's just going to sit there next to the pipe. That's really a concern with sewer, because the crock degrades, and the way the crock comes together, it's just a pipe seated in another pipe. That degrades over time. A couple roots get in, and then there's a little bit of daylight, and then the roots kind of intrude.
Nice. Thank you very much.
So through the chair, just a quick question. if this project doesn't go forward for the larger project and we have to focus in on the smaller projects, should we expect another Giffords and Webster engineering quote? Is there a way that we can anticipate that quote for the Hazelhurst or the Channing or University Streets?
Yeah, I could solicit that, but it's typically 5% is the standard for design. In this case, since we know that we're constructing it at that point, my recommendation would probably be to provide proposal for design and construction. So that would probably be closer to 17%. If we're at 2.25, this is all an exercise in theory without knowing what the actual budget number is off the top of my head. Be looking at about $380,000 for design through construction, end of project for engineering.
And that would be for all 4 of those?
That would just be for 1 year of spending. So 1 year's program, if it's approximately 2.25 million, and if 17% is the exact design through construction, and there's a lot of ifs there.
So through the chair, that would cover 2 streets then, to follow up on?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
and those are usually 2 residential blocks.
Blocks,
So
okay.
long block, short block gets added together.
Thank you.
One follow-up question. You mentioned a history of breaks on the 8-mile water main.
Mhm.
Do we happen to have, I don't know, cost quantification for that?
I looked for that. I could not find it. I talked to our water department. 2017, I think, is when it occurred. I believe that we used Sunday Brothers Construction to do it in conjunction with our own staffing and labor. A lot of times, the total cost isn't contained because DPW would buy a 12-inch section of pipe. We would be responsible for materials. That's a company that we worked with a lot in that fashion, where to get things done for cheaper, we may be responsible for part of the work. We would usually provide materials, and then we would hand that to them. They would perform that work, and then we'd also do things like traffic control and some other things to mitigate costs. But I can do a little bit more research. I'm not sure how likely it is that I can find the actual number. It may, at the end of the day, still be a little bit of speculation.
And of course, now I have a follow-up question to the follow-up. If we move forward with the actual project, so the actual construction phase, rather than just the engineering, are we tearing up the 8-mile road at all, or is it just limited to the sidewalks and the green space?
Yeah, so my understanding is that most of what's there can be put out of service, dead-ended in place. We will not have to work on the road. The new replacement will be between the sidewalk and curb, with some sections that'll kind of be in the sidewalk and require sidewalk replacement, but it won't require road work. And I say won't, but I should say it will be limited. There will be some areas, gate valves, where we make connections and terminate connections from like the perpendicular residential streets. Those may go into the roadway, and they may take over a little bit of road construction, and then there may be disruption, likely will be disruption on westbound in that first lane to protect the construction area. But most of what we're doing is relocating it to a spot that's easier and cheaper to work in. If you look back at the LSLR, like one of the reasons that private is cheaper than public is because public is in the roadway and private is in turf. So that is part of the reason that we want to put it here on our side of 8 Mile.
Through the
Just one quick follow-up to that. If we are tearing up the sidewalks, can we include within the federal appropriations ask funding to replace the sidewalks so that doesn't get passed along to the business owners or come out of our funds?
Typically, there will be unit cost included within the contingency to cover that. So the overall cost, 4.8, that will include funding and unit cost for replacing sidewalk, roadway, turf restoration. So that is not something, we never do that with an infrastructure project. as sidewalks are damaged, as curb is damaged, that sidewalk gets repaired through that project. That's not something that we pay for through special assessment, similar to our residential program.
Great, thank you.
Through the chair, will this design study definitively answer Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski's previous question about if we have to work in 8 Mile?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I can follow up with that as well. That doesn't have to wait for the design. We have a rough idea of what we're doing. I can get some follow-up information on that.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Okay. We have a first and we have a motion and we have a seconded.
Through the chair, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry, one more thing. Is there so this is pending approval from the attorney's office. I'm wondering if we find out that the federal funding falls through, can we pause this and figure something out? I don't know. Yep.
I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, I guess you could potentially shelve it, but really it needs to be done prior to when we hear back from the federal government in September. So I doubt that it won't be completed before then. Maybe if let's just say there's 50,000 work of environmental remediation that hasn't taken place because that's something that you don't want to permit until you know that you have funding and you know that you're doing construction season next year. Yeah, potentially we could say, okay, we spent 192,727. Let's take 50,000 of that and just shift that to the next ask for the smaller program for moving up those 2 streets. And then that would just cover design and construction for University and Channing. And then I would just note that in the council recommendation.
Thank you.
And I will note, Senator Peters' office specifically confirmed to us that they did identify this as one of their priority projects, so they are formally advancing it on their end. That's about as far as we can get to knowing that we're moving ahead in the project at this point.
That's helpful. Good to know. Thank you.
And to Councilmember Sabatini's question, the fact that, I'm presuming that the fact that we're trying to get ahead of the game in order to get this repaired before there's any real damage, that's why you're asking about the, okay.
Yes, thank you.
And not to question your expertise, because I know nothing about the timeline of something like this, but how did you come up with the timeline to kind of do this right now?
Well, so we have had a 20-year plan since prior to my starting here, and that's coordination through DPW, Giffords Webster, Civil Engineering, OHM, who does a lot of our hydrology or hydraulic studies. They do a lot of the state and federal plans, condition assessments. We've taken that. We work internally with our water and sewer division to make sure that we're accounting for a history of breaks. And those all go into that 20-year plan. That 20-year plan gets adjusted as projects are completed. New things just get added to the end of it. And then that gets refined as things come closer to the date. This 8 Mile project has been on there for at least 10 years. There are 2 smaller sections within that scope that have been replaced because they were identified as a higher likelihood of failure. So this project isn't going straight from Woodward to Pinecrest. It's going from Pinecrest to, I believe, I just showed it, Livernois. There's a small section at Garbett Park that it has been moved to our greenbelt. And then there's a section near Ferndale, I believe, that only goes for about a block. So this has been something that's been on our capital plan for a number of years, and it continues to be prioritized as something that needs to happen relatively soon.
Other questions before we get a roll call? Not working. Okay. Roll call.
Sabatini,
Yes.
Mikulski,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
LaSalle,
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. All right. Item 8C, Charter Amendment on Vacancies in Elected Office. Give me 1 minute while I pull that up. All right. The suggested action is to adopt the resolution to add the charter amendment on council vacancies to the November 3rd, 2026 general election. And are you?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
So included for consideration is a question of whether to include an amendment to Chapter 3, Section 9 pertaining to vacancies in elected offices to our upcoming November election. The change here is that if adopted, the term of filling a vacancy in office would be the sooner of either the next municipal election or the next regular election. And the distinction here is that the municipal election specifically refers to the odd year November elections in which council and mayor elections occur. Adding in regular election cycles would allow for council temporary vacancies to be shorter in nature and give a sooner opportunity to voters to weigh in on that replacement. They would still only be filling the remainder of the vacant term. It wouldn't be a new term. But that does just depend then on when the vacancy actually occurs. It could be anywhere from a year to 3 years, depending on where it falls. And I did provide some examples of just how that may play out under different scenarios. Mostly it relates to when vacancies may occur, again, in the odd years where there is a regular election cycle outside of our municipal election. This was viewed as the preferable path forward because it ensures that we don't have to host a special election, which can be costly, confusing, and doesn't tend to generate the highest voter turnout, but still puts it to voters in a way that is more, more approachable and I guess resident focused in terms of trying to fill those vacancies sooner. I will note the other item that we considered is the 120-day mark. We noted during the past election cycles, the cutoff for inclusion has been about 105 days. So the 120 days is viewed as giving at least 2 weeks advance notice so individuals can complete the materials if they elect to run after that vacancy is noted. And then last but not least, we did know from our conversation at the last meeting that this is beyond the preferred or the guidance deadline of the AG and governor's office in terms of its submission, but we will attempt to submit for the November ballot.
You will, I'm sorry, so you will intend to submit for the November ballot, so there's a way to add on to this that we've already?
We do have to ask them as 2 separate ballot questions.
Okay.
That's standard practice. We can only focus on one topic at a time when we present a charter amendment to voters. But the intent would be, if accepted by the AG's office and governor, that this be on the same election cycle as the previously adopted ballot measure.
It up.
Through the chair, I think this is pretty good. It's clean, it's simple. It's doing the thing that we said we wanted to do, which is to make things a little bit more equitable and not rely on appointments to fill seats, while still giving the flexibility that aligns with what other cities are doing in terms of people who elect to run for higher office. So in general, I don't see anything that I have an issue with this.
Through the chair, Madam Mayor, I was curious if MML got back to you on your question from the previous meeting.
They did. They did. They actually said that there are 25 municipalities that do require the resignation, but 256 do not. So if that's to answer the question. So it sounds like it's a trend that most municipalities are leaning towards. I did not have a chance to speak with Royal Oak because they had this policy in place as far as the required resignation, and then they got rid of it in 2018. So I'm not sure their reasoning. I have a call into, I'm just curious, I just have a call into Mayor Fournier to see what was the logic behind it.
Thank you.
Thank you to former council member Dennis Whitey for always thinking about ways in which to help with local government. I know you like do this for the fun of it, but we appreciate it, and I appreciate you reaching out to the city manager about it. Any other comments regarding this route? Now, what if this, so, but we are behind as far as making the request.
Correct.
Correct.
It it is possible that they may return it to us based on their guidance, in which case the next regular election would be the following November?
Following
Yes.
November. Any other questions? I don't believe we did a motion. Did we do a motion? I don't recall we did. I don't think we did a motion. Okay.
I move to adopt the resolution to add the charter amendment on council vacancies to the November 3rd, 2026 general election.
Support.
City manager? I mean, city clerk?
Motion, huh? Kelly,
Yes.
Sabatini,
Yes.
LaSalle,
Yes.
Mikulski,
Yes.
Leaksmay.
Yes. Thank you for all involved. Appreciate you. All right. Okay. So now we are call to council. I defer to the city manager for department head updates.
Clerk's Department?
As many folks have mentioned already this evening, we will be having ballots sent out by the end of this week for the August 4th election. I think we're looking at around 5,800 ballots that are going to be sent out. It's not too late to request an absentee ballot as well. If you'd like, just visit mi.gov/vote. And then there's a place on there where you can select apply for an absentee ballot online. And then we'll have that ballot sent to you as well. Thank you.
EDA?
Before DDA comes up, I want to ask that if someone has not voted absentee before, they can still, even first-time voter, they can still go to that website and.
Exactly. Yeah, but if they have any issues, just feel free to give us a call. As Riley mentioned earlier, we're now extension 8, and we're happy to help you out.
Okay. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Ferndale community. Wanted to provide a brief update about the sidewalk work that is happening in downtown along 9 Mile. Users may have noticed, effective today, that several of the crosswalks from the north side to south side are closed. This is required so that we can ensure that the curb cuts that are used for mobility and accessibility are done correctly. They have to be surveyed and lined to make sure that they are all ADA compliant. So wanted to make sure that folks knew that there will remain one crosswalk from the north side to south side that will remain in access or in use. That is on the east side of Allen Road. So if you look at where Rosie O'Grady's crosses kind of to Pop's Italian, that will remain open. However, the west side that would be kind of where Bakehouse 46 and to kind of the other side of Affirmations, that will be closed for the foreseeable future for at least a few weeks. Likewise, the Rainbow Crosswalk that is mid-block between Allen and Woodward is closed right now while significant sidewalk work is done in front of Natural Food Patch. And likewise, both north-south intersections or crosswalks at Planavon, where Schiffer Park is and Corner Bar are also closed because there will not be any south side entryway right now while they get that surveyed, staked, and poured. So any questions on ongoing sidewalk work?
Through the chair, how long do we anticipate the crosswalks being closed?
It will be a few weeks. The one that is in effect on the east side of Allen will remain open until the others are completed. And then afterwards, that will go back and be similarly replaced and repoured. And we will have social media notices going out tomorrow with a visual of this where you can cross and where you cannot cross. And it's pretty obvious right now, but we want to make sure that if anyone does have mobility access, they know to cross at Allen on the east side. Thank you.
I won't wait for her to call me. So a couple reminders. Somebody brought up the burn permits, and it is a great opportunity to remind people that, because not everybody's aware of the ordinances. If you do have a propane little fire pit type thing, those can be utilized without a burn permit and without the location restrictions. If you want to do anything that burns wood, so whether it's an in-ground fire pit, the above-ground fire pits, anything you're putting wood in and lighting, you have to have a burn permit for that. And there are location restrictions, so when you apply for it, it's $25 a year. It's good for the calendar year. We come out, do the inspection the first time, educate you on the safe place for location, and also to make sure your yard can actually accommodate it, so you don't put it too close to something, and something that should be very fun and enjoyable turns into something not so fun and enjoyable. So any additional questions, go to our website on the Ferndale Fire Department, part of the city's website. You can get more information on that. And of course, anybody can call us at any time, just questions. We've had people put beautiful custom fire pits in their backyard and then apply with us, and we come out and we tell them that they can't have it there and they have to have the contractor come back and tear it all out and move it. So please, if you're planning projects, let us be your friend and talk to us on the front end so we can be part of that planning process with you. Just, we want to save you money, time, and frustration, and let you know if it's worth it for you to spend that investment. So we just want to keep everybody safe. And that'll segue me into, because this will be our last meeting before 4th of July holiday, so remind people about fireworks. So on behalf of Fire Department and Police Department, your public safety here in Ferndale, we care about keeping people safe. On the website, you can go and see the specifics, but you can only light off fireworks between June 29th and July 4th. You cannot do them July 5th this year because that's a Sunday. Sometimes if it falls on a Friday or Saturday, you do get the day after the holiday. You do not have that this year because it's a Sunday. You cannot light them off earlier than 11 a.m. and not past 11:45 p.m. And you're not allowed to occupy the street to light off fireworks. You cannot enter other property that is not yours without permission to light off fireworks. And anything that leaves the ground, I kind of highly discourage. We're a very densified, built community, so there's not really a great safe place to be putting things up in the air unless you have permission from a big parking lot or somewhere else. So just be mindful of that, so again, we don't end up with a fire. I don't know how dry it'll be around 4th of July, and just keep kids safe too. And I know I grew up with sparklers, but sparklers actually get extremely hot and they're much more dangerous than we realize. So if you have that, there's a lot of alternatives to sparklers out now, and especially ones with like the wood handles instead of the metal. But if you have anything like that, make sure you have a bucket of water. So if they do sparklers and you're just watching the kids and you're a responsible parent, that's fine. Just have a bucket of water they can drop them in so they don't drop them on the ground, because the other thing we see is they're done, kids drop them on the ground, they're still very hot, and the kids step on them and burn their feet, or people accidentally touch them. So just have the safety, have the water out there. And again, any questions, contact the fire department. If you have questions about enforcement or have any issues or concerns about fireworks being let off that you feel is outside of these hours, you can contact the police department. I'll take any questions if anybody has any. All right.
I do have questions, but I'll ask you after the meeting.
Okay.
Please.
Mayor, Council, Ferndale. Thanks, Fire Chief, for hitting the fireworks. They have to be done by 11:45. Fireworks are a lot like politics. People love them or they really hate them. But the important thing is to be careful. They can be very dangerous. Speaking briefly about the tragic event last Thursday, I can't talk about it. It's an open investigation. It's making progress. But I'd also like to take another moment in light of that. If you're on the roadway in whatever capacity, if you're walking, if you're on a bike or in a car, be careful, be cautious, and be courteous to other people on the roadways. Don't be distracted, and look out for yourself. You're the only one out there who has to worry about yourself. Other people are in a hurry, but if you are, please slow down and be careful. Any questions, comments? Thank you, and if I don't see you, have a nice 4th of July.
That's it for department updates.
Is somebody enlighten? Somebody help me refresh my memory. Where did I start last time? Did I start this side or this side? I think. The heck with it. Am I right? Okay. Councilmember Kelly.
I just wanted to extend my deepest condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of David Plouffe as they navigate an unimaginable loss. I also want to acknowledge and thank our first responders, investigators, witnesses, and everyone impacted by this tragedy. My thoughts are with all those who are grieving and with our community as we continue to process this loss together.
Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski.
A few things. I did want to thank everybody for the amazing Livernoise event. It was fabulous as usual. I also wanted to thank our special events director, Michael Larry, for Ferndale Days. That was very well attended this year. And then, much like Councilmember Kelly, I did want to extend my deepest condolences to those affected by the tragic events along Woodward.
Councilmember Sabatini.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I think Councilmember Kelly and Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski said it beautifully. I share their sentiments with the tragedy. And the other thing that I had is, on a positive note, just congratulations to the new commission appointees. The last few meetings, we've had several community members join boards and commissions. Congratulations, and thank you for stepping up to serve the community. There are other openings, as we've heard of some today, like the Arts and Beautification Commission. There's the one opening. I believe Planning Commission, Ferndale Accessibility and Inclusion Commission, or FAIC, has, I think, one. But anyways, take a look at it, and if you don't want to commit, or your schedule won't allow you to commit to a full commission, you can always volunteer on an as available basis, and we'd love to have you. And then to the FAIC, we heard from a resident at Call to Audience. Kevin, appreciate that update, and I just wanted to highlight that we have nominations open for the accessibility, the Business Accessibility Awards. So it's just an opportunity to highlight those businesses that go above and beyond the legal requirements for ADA accessibility. So if there's a business that has positively impacted you in that way, or inspired you or one of your neighbors, please come and let the FAIC know, and we hope to award that in July, I believe. So that's coming up, but plenty of time to make your nominations. And then, as Kevin mentioned, we'll have the ice cream social on July 19th at 16th. Thank you, Kevin. It's a Thursday, the 16th, at Jim Schaefer Corner, there at the corner of 9 Mile and Woodward. A lot of great resources at that event. Hope you can come attend and take advantage, learn about those resources, or just come say hi and hang out. We'd love to see you there. That's it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
And Councilmember LaSalle.
Also want to echo what the other council members have said and my deepest condolences to everyone affected. And then also on a positive note, I want to echo what the clerk said, please vote. And if you know anyone that would benefit from voting absentee, encourage them. It's very, very easy once you get set up, and voting is very, very important.
Same sentiments, my condolences to the family, and I just really want everyone to be safe in the community, so just be safe out there and mindful. And then for, you know, whether you're out and about on a different, utilizing a different form of mobility, or if you're one of the drivers, I know that I particularly drive much slower when I'm turning corners and things as I'm going onto Woodward. So just be mindful, and let's look out for one another, and let's be careful. I also want to, we talk about so much, and I lose my train of thought, but I just want to thank all of the events that happened over the weekend. I know that I did not get to go to the market days, but I heard it was well attended. I did get to attend a couple of Juneteenth celebrations, one hosted by the city. Thank you, Michael. I know you're gone for the day. Also at the Elks, and also the Parks and Rec. Their summer solstice was so much fun. A lot of people turned out, and it was just a really nice event. So I'm really pleased that that turned out to be a good event for the Parks and Rec. Have a happy and safe 4th. And with that being said, this meeting's adjourned at 9:06 p.m.